if the word gets out in the black community, particularly the part of the community that would have been at the concert, young black people, young black men, young black women, that the city would not let James Brown come to town and perform, in the wake of King's assassination, I said, all hell will break loose.
Baby, baby, baby.
It was being held downtown. It was ancillary to the real problem in Roxbury. And why are we focusing on a concert? But while the blacks would come downtown, or if it was canceled and they didn't come down, that would exacerbate. And if it was precariously balanced, this might light the fuse that lit the fire.
Baby, baby, baby.
While there were dangers, it would be even worse in many ways to say to those young people that you now can't have the opportunity to see a cultural hero, because we're afraid of what you'll do.
I've got the freedom, baby.
I was home and someone called me, and like everyone else, I just felt like my stomach had dropped out.
I opened the note and it said that Martin Luther King had been shot and killed.
It was really just a shocking moment. There was a mixture of emotions: frustration, anger, tremendous amount of anger, despair, sadness. There were some meetings that night, and people began to go out in the streets and see what was happening, try to create an atmosphere that would say to people in the community that we needed to stay calm and not jam ourselves up to the actions.
I didn't act immediately. I think the first decision I came to was to agree, at least for the moment, to keep the police out and let Roxbury, for a moment, sift its emotions out without any police or City Hall presence. A bit of a risk, but I saw no other option at the time.
When people are grieving and they might want to lash out, and they might have thought, what are the police doing here? Dr. King's dead, what are the police doing here? So I think it was a good decision not to send police in. I think it was a wise decision to have the concert because it allowed people to sort of let off some steam, but yet mourn at the same time, because James Brown, of course, was a person who was speaking to young people in those days.
Try me. Try me. Darling, tell me I need you. Try me. Try me. And your love, but always be true. Whoa, I need you. Should I do? Hold me. Hold me. I want you right here, by my side. Hold me. Hold me. And your love, we won't hide. I need you. Should I ride you? I need you. Oh, walk with me. Walk with me. Talk with me. I want you to stop my heart from crying. Oh, walk with me. Talk with me, and your love will stop my heart from dying. Whoa, I need you.
I initially had no idea that there was a James Brown performance scheduled for Boston that week. Of course, I knew who James Brown was. He was immense in the black communities across the country.
Atkins kept interjecting himself. There were 1,000 other issues besides this concert. I mean, the police, the community was still precariously balanced.
He said, "I'm not having all those people downtown." He said that the police had told me they couldn't control it, and that all hell would break loose, and we would have millions of dollars worth of property damage. I said, that's just the beginning of the problem you're going to have if you cancel this concert.
You have to understand, fatigue sets in, tension sets in, uncertainty sets in. I don't care who you are. And for a mayor, I wasn't frightened, I wasn't scared. My mind was totally focused in taking on an overload of not only ideas, but impressions for the first time.
I tried to convince the mayor that the city's interests dictated that he reverse himself, number one. Number two, that his personal political interests dictated that he reverse himself, because at that point, in the spring of 1968, Kevin White was still being mentioned on most of the medium-sized lists as someone who was a possible contender, if not for president, at least for vice president. And he liked the way that sounded, liked the way it looked in print. And it was clear because I had talked to him about it previously. And I told him that he could forget it, that if Boston went up for this reason, that nobody would talk to him, that he wouldn't be taken seriously anywhere.
You can get, you can get, you can get.
Eventually, Kevin came up with the idea of trying to get one of the television stations to agree to tape the program live and to show it during the time that it otherwise would have been seen by 15 or 18,000 people, show it to 1 million people. By the time it was clear what the impact of the announcement by the mayor of this public airing of the Brown concert was going to be, namely how many people were lining up to get refunds and that nobody was coming to buy tickets, it was also clear that Brown was furious. So nobody wanted to meet him. Nobody wanted to talk to James.
The issue of $60,000 for the concert came up during the concern with contractual rights that affected him. And it was just the straw that almost, made me either laugh or cry. In the middle of this, he's looking for $60,000. It isn't that I wouldn't have spent it. I was so unprepared. He wasn't even offering me a ticket.
I had convinced the mayor that in order to avoid being sued by Brown for interfering with his contract with the Garden, that the city would have to or ought to commit to make up the difference between what came in fact, and what they would reasonably have expected to get. And the mayor, after much angry discussion, finally and very reluctantly agreed to that.
I was treating it politically. I argued for a moment and surrendered immediately. It wasn't the time to argue over money. That as a young man, mayor or not, I knew. And once that was settled quickly, Brown couldn't have been more pleasant, effusive, and supportive, and in the end, he was worth the 60.
I'm gonna roll myself up in a big ball. I got to roll myself up in a big ball. Gonna get me a soul sister from over there now. Gotta get me one from out here now. Gotta get me one from over there now. Got to have a good time. Hey, yeah. Hey, yeah. Hey, hey, hey. Kansas City, here I come. Going to Kansas City. Kansas City, here I come. Got some crazy little boxer there. I'm gonna get me moon. Look here. I'll be standing on the corner. 12 feet back. Standing on the corner. Together, sitting by.
Well, not to overly dramatize it, but I'm tired. I'm exhausted. Maybe I'm a bit self-sympathetic, I can't remember. But the point is, and my mind is on overload. So I'm waiting to be introduced. I don't know what I'm going to say. The Gardens is dark, and all is the spotlight on the stage. So for a moment, I thought, you know, somebody take a pop at me from the balcony. Somebody take a shot at me. Atkins started out.
The man whose foresight and leadership has given the city of Boston and the whole metropolitan Boston
He didn't have the
area
instinct for the crowd.
a new lease on life.
Nor would I think. Brown did immediately. He owned them to start. So when Tom was
And he's gonna make
lurching
this a
for
great
words or trying to find the appropriate introduction, I wouldn't have done much better myself. Brown grabbed the mic.
First, I'd like to say I had the pleasure of meeting him, and I sat down up a mayor, and he said, look, man, say, you can come down with me. He said, I'm all together. So let's say a swinging cat. Okay? Mayor Kevin White, give him a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. He's a swinging cat.
And you think we were born in the same nursery when he got through. He was effusive. My mother hadn't spoke that well of me during the campaign. And of course, he put me immediately at ease. And he married me to the audience, which I could not have done myself in that environment.
24 hours ago, Dr. King died for all of us, black and white. That we may live together in harmony without violence and in peace.
People look at the concert and look at WGBH, but what they don't see, as often you just don't see, is what was happening on the streets, on the part of people from the community who were working to make sure the situation worked positively, and it did. But the unfortunate thing is that the community, people in the community, don't get the credit for the job that was done in helping to calm the atmosphere.
Don't be wrong. Don't be wrong. Hey, you died. Don't be wrong. And now you're gone. All right. When you touch me, when you touch me, good God, can't stand it. Can't stand it. Can't stand your love. I'll be all right. I'll be fine. I'll be all right. I'm all right. Hey, look, I'm all right. You want to dance? Dance. Wait a minute. They all right. That's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
Hey, you are my man, baby.
Oh, look, wait a minute. Let me finish the show. Wait a minute. Let me finish the show for everybody else, all right?